to find out who that person is next to you and what. No, not really. All right, so next we're going to go into our welcome. We are a little bit behind on the agenda. Like I said, we'll be able to find time to make it up somewhere in the program. But we want to now hear from our host, who's coming forward.
Welcome.
Come on down. Carl Lavender, ladies and gentlemen.
Very good. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you very much. Welcome to our campus. Thank you. It's like Las Vegas. Thank you for coming. Wanted to say that we are in open enrollment right now and looking to bring onto our campus about 100 new people. So if you have not been on this campus before, how many new people have never been in our building before? Raise your hands. First timers, okay. Our little spiel. We are the largest technical college on the west coast of Florida, about 1,800 students right now. And I'm responsible for marketing, student recruitment, and community partnerships, thus this meeting tonight. So if you were interested in getting a career started with a trade certification, you want to come to this college, and I brought you information here on the table. So hopefully you can join us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. All right. All right, next on the agenda, we're going to follow the agenda pretty much as it's written. We're going to bring up Dan. I always mess up his last name, so I just call him Handsome Dan. He's going to talk about responsible contractors and the wage ordinance that he's working on. So let's receive Dan and Matthew. Just give him a round of applause.
I think I could go without the microphone. I feel more comfortable. I don't want to make everyone here hard of hearing because I over-talk on the mic. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, and thank you for being such great activists, putting in your time, getting out here, being part of the community, trying to make a difference and do stuff that matters. It's refreshing to be surrounded by people that care about the people here, and we just are excited to be part of the group here. Who here has noticed to build things like infrastructure development, the pier, the police station, the biosolids plants, sidewalks, roads, underground utilities? This work's all happening. It's ongoing now, and they're going to spend about $1 billion doing this work over the course of the next couple of years. Part of the bigger puzzle is, over the next 10 years, they're looking at about $10 billion worth of investment in the area. This is, again, predominantly tax dollars, money that people out of their paychecks is deducted, you pay as part of your property taxes, are funding all this development. How many of you know somebody that works?
In December of 2016, the city put out an RFP to do workforce development as part of the CRA, the South St. Petersburg CRA programs. Community Redevelopment Agency is the technical term, but the community redevelopment area. It was $50,000. A group of us sort of collaborated on trying to put an RFP together over the holidays that year, and we made a submission. After a process, we were awarded as the lead agency, which is the Pinellas Ex-Offender Reentry Coalition. Subsequent to that, or not subsequent, excuse me, usually a little bit better at this. So after a few months, we were able to execute a contract. It's approved. It didn't have to go through City Council because it was only $50,000. We began work July 1st of 2017. At that point, this first RFP was really supposed to be geared towards jobs that were going to be created in Commerce Park as Commerce Park companies were to break ground. Eurocycle, some different marine companies. As of even today, obviously the ground hasn't been broken on Commerce Park, but that was what it was geared towards. We started setting out to form a collaborative with a lot of the people sitting in this room, with Pinellas Technical College, St. Petersburg College, with the Deuces, with Aspect. I'm just looking around with the Urban League. And that collaboration has grown where many of you guys have been to a couple of those meetings. We actually have meetings every 2 weeks to talk about jobs, to talk about different opportunities that exist. Many times we actually bring employers to those meetings who might be opening a business or doing a hiring event, and we've started doing that. We meet every 2 weeks, usually either on this campus or on the Midtown campus for St. Petersburg College. The project itself was geared to, in the course of a year, that we would put 15 people through some sort of certification training We would put 20 people in jobs and we'd offer some level of service to 20 people. To date, we've had 126 people in the program, 91 who've gotten jobs, 91 people who've gotten 118 jobs, meaning some of them have gone through more than one job. So we clearly exceeded those numbers. Working with the city, this was their first attempt at this. It's been interesting because the CRA funding has been tricky in the legislature for the last several years. So the way it works is this is sort of tax increment funding that is.
I know that they're trying to break ground yesterday, and there is something that is on the city council agenda for May 17th to change their contract so that the financing can be separate between the commercial side and the residential side. So we might have to wait on that, but I think actually they've been given permission to move forward with breaking ground this week as long as the permitting is done.
Right.
And I know that they submitted that last Friday, so we're hoping that we can get it pushed through so that they get that this week and they can start really doing the work.
And we're excited about that, to get that message that they want to hire 15 full-time jobs now from citizens in the neighborhood, in the CRA. We're excited to help facilitate that.
I think for the record, related to the New Deal, Mike's point is well taken in that in the CRA, if you ask the question, is there workforce development strategy in the CRA? That strategy belongs to the Workforce Development Alliance and Collaborative, all right?
That's correct.
And that's where that is. So if you want to join that group, because you have a workforce idea, you want to look for workers, you want to help expand that, then join us on May the 18th, 10 o'clock a.m. at SPC Midtown Campus. That's the second meeting for the month of May,
Right.
right?
Yeah, we rotate, have meetings every 2 weeks, and we welcome anyone. I will caution is that when you come to that meeting, we're not getting into broad policy all the time. And what I mean by that is
Sitting right in front of me, so we're going to do maybe 3 to 5 minutes on committee updates, and then we really want to spend a lot of time in breakouts because for those of you who looked at the agenda, we have some work in front of us. Did everybody get a copy of the timeline? It looked like I probably didn't print enough. And so we originally put out a timeline when we met back in February of this year when we started, doing this phase of the work, the action and accountability work. We put out a timeline of what we wanted to have happen. We also included the FY 2019 city budget timeline. Their timeline was actually posted on their website. And once you look at the city budget website, one of the other milestones they had was to have in June 2018, to have FY 19 budget open house. So those of you who have that, do you see it? It's on the document that says FY city budget timeline. The third category is other budget milestones. In June 2018 was when they were scheduled to have the budget open house. Well, they moved it up, and so it actually accelerates the timeline that we have to organize. And so that's why I said we're going to try and really spend a lot of time tonight to accomplish these deliverables, because that budget workshop, open house that was scheduled for June is actually happening, hold on to your chairs, next Monday. It's going to be May 14th. And so it's causing us to really readjust our schedule and how we were planning to do this work. And so we're going to need to really buckle down and really have our committees really meet and kind of get into overdrive, because we want to be able to present our recommendations at that budget hearing or the open house. The open house format, for those of you who have not participated, they have each city department where you can go in and you can talk specifically with each department, Parks and Recs, Public Works, you name it. And you can go in and talk with the heads of those departments, and then at the end of that open house, halfway through that open house, after you've experienced the different departments, then there's a presentation from the city on their ideas for the budget. And then they open up the floor for a public comment. And we want to take this group that's in here tonight, and each person take a friend to go in and talk about what it is that we recommend. Because again, this started with us being people who review the budget and being able to voice what matters to us and how we would like to see our dollars spent. And so we want you to join us next Monday at 6 o'clock at the Coliseum. But in order to really have that cohesive, we have general ideas about what we want to recommend, but we want to really buckle down tonight, do some work, get some drafts of some recommendations that we, as a New Deal for St. Pete Collaborative, can take into that meeting and be able to express. Is that clear? Is we good on that? And again, we had no control over the timeline. They said June, so we were kind of coasting along. We were getting ready for June. And then I got a call. We talked to Gina. She replied to my email inviting her to this meeting. She said, hey, you know that thing is next Monday. So it's next Monday, all right? So with that being said, we want to go into maybe about 3 to 5 minutes to hear from our committees, committee updates, and then we're going to get into our breakouts and work on some deliverables. So I see you, Bruce, and you're the closest to me. So Bruce, maybe you want to come up and talk about what the Living Wage Committee's been working on, and so some of the work that's happening and conversations that we've been having around community benefits. Let's give it up for Bruce Nissen.
Well, I got to say the Living Wage Committee has not had a lot on its agenda because of the 3 things that we had as goals to get done. 2 of them were basically done as of some time ago. So some progress has already been made, and that's really, really wonderful. The thing that had come up that had not yet been addressed was the whole notion of community benefits agreements, so that whatever development's done, particularly these high-cost development downtown for housing for rich people, which is basically most of the development that's going on right now in St. Pete, and very little of anything is getting out to the community or for people who need affordable housing and things of that sort. So the idea had been to come up with ideas of ways that developers would be pushed or forced or whatever you want to work with and negotiate with community organizations over what kind of benefits are they going to, for the privilege of developing in such a lucrative area as they want to do and stuff, what kind of benefits would they commit to? And if they wanted the support of community residents and the rest, they should commit to those. And if they didn't, they might very well get opposition. They might very well not get to do what it is that they wanted to do. So that whole idea, and Lisa Weeder-Bowman came and talked about that idea, obviously, at the last meeting of this. She's put the idea on the agenda. But the way it's sitting right now is we're doing some research into how those have looked all around the country and what that would or would not require. A lot of them did not require anything in terms of city ordinances or legislation. It's just community groups have gotten their act together, gone and confronted developers who want to go do this kind of lucrative development and extracted benefits for the community out of that, for the community that really needs it.
Hello. Okay, we have a few updates. We are working on asking the city for an ordinance to include cooperative business development. It's very much in keeping with the kind of traditional business development they're offering already. There's been one city in the country that has passed an ordinance, and we've used that as a model to try to demonstrate how it might work. We're currently, Councilwoman Rice is currently considering sponsoring that. She's looking at the ordinance now, and we're looking at ways we can tie it into existing municipal code to make it simpler. As far as funding, we don't know what our funding requirements would be for that. It would depend on how what the ask is in the end, and how some of those services could be rolled into existing services. So we're still working on that aspect. As far as the grocery co-op, we have a steering committee. We've been meeting once a week, very consistently. We're still in the vision planning stages. Anyone that is interested in joining, we meet here at the college in the agriculture building once a week at 9:30 a.m. every Thursday. So feel free to join. We could use a few more members, and we're still at the vision planning stage, and we hope to incorporate within about a month. The last thing is we're also teaching a class on youth-owned cooperatives at the Enoch Davis Center in Wednesday, the 27th, and that would be in June from 2 to 4. So we're going to give you a lot of examples of how youngsters, half our age, or a quarter of our age, are actually running cooperative businesses
People my
already.
age.
Yeah, like your age, young guys like you. So it's just to show you it's not rocket science. It's a very easy model, and we hope we can enlighten you. So that's it.
Any questions for Judith?
Now, as is the last time, the new deal is obviously anchoring the wealth building strategy on the community co-op model. Is this the only model we're talking about right now, John, or are there others
No.
on the wealth building?
Yeah, with wealth building, we talked about a couple of things. The points of progress that we listed was the financial empowerment centers. And there's some conversation right now about developing an incubator under this one community plan, where we're going to American Underground to look at how they've done community wealth building by creating businesses, creating entrepreneurs. But because of the 2 points of progress that we had under community wealth, we wanted to prioritize them and not get scattered, because a lot of times we scatter our focus and then we don't get anything done. And so we wanted to specifically focus in 2018 on cooperative business development, specifically around a community-owned grocery store, because when we did our survey, remember the survey is what is driving this work. So when we talked to people in the community, they said that we want a community-owned grocery store. And so that community-owned cooperative idea is what we're moving with, because that's what we had the community support for, but that's not the only thing that we're focusing on. We're working with, like I said, the one community plan that's doing some things around economic development, the financial empowerment centers, and continuing to move that needle. But for the work that we're specifically doing is around cooperative business development, so that we can own our own businesses in our community.
And also, it keeps the wealth very local. I just dug up some statistics. For every $1,000 spent in a grocery co-op, it creates $1,600 circulating in your local community. That's an example of what co-ops do. They keep your dollars local. They truly build wealth. Was there another question?
Yeah, Frank Wells, Frank Community Trust. Do you have any specific strategy around responding to the city's RFP for Tangerine Plaza?
No, we don't. It's typically there's a very successful process and a very specific, well-defined process to develop a grocery co-op. And your first milestone is to incorporate, build your board, and obtain 300 members. Then you start to look for your address, because a co-op is really us. It's not an address. It's us. So it's not something the city can give you. It's not something an address gives you. It's really